Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Magnus, and this is a presentation that I actually had live at CPX2024 in Vienna. And I would just say there is a big difference to have this live compared to making like a YouTube video on it. Because on a YouTube video, you're able to like re-record. So this is my, I don't know, 7th take on the intro. If you do it live, it's a bit more, it's troublesome. I did have like 114 pulse, I did sweat like a pig, and it was like 25 people there, so I shouldn't do that, but well, live is a different thing. So what is the silver bullet? A silver bullet is the simple and easy solution for a complex problem. So everyone wants a simple solution and just fixing the problems, like tell me what to buy, and just purchases and it fixes everything. So is there such a thing? And not really. So if you think about it, when it comes to like physical environments like data centers and so on, we put them underground, we have like diesel generators, they can last forever. And we can even put like military grade weapons like defense wires, big walls around it. I mean, Microsoft have even put one of their test data centers underwater. So is this really the problem with like the physical environment itself? I mean, even things like Stuxnet, for example, it has been breached with air-gapped systems. So there are always ways to attack all the type of infrastructure that you have, because someone is actually using it. So there are always a problem, and more or less the problem in most cases is users. But even if you have the most perfect users, they don't click on anything. We also have like the supply chain attack. So how do you protect against something like SolarWinds? I mean, here you have an application that you are using to control your environment. You trust this company and you try to keep everything up to date. You're patching everything, you lock it down, you limit access to everything, and then you have a compromise within the products that you're actually using. So supply chain attacks is more or less, it's more or less impossible to protect against, to get. So what should you actually do? Well, when it comes to like all sort of breaches, yes, everyone is talking about like zero trust. So of course you should implement zero trust, and you can just buy a product for zero trust. But the point of this video and the point that I'm trying to make is that we need to assume a breach scenario. So we need to start to think about what happens when an attacker actually gets into the network. We need to limit the amount of access and limit the amount of damage someone can do. So how do you actually do this? Sadly, we need to go back to the basics. So the most important thing that you can do is just to patch your systems. Patch your systems is the most efficient way to limit your exposure. And it's not only about like patching the systems that are internet facing. You need to patch the systems within your organization because things try to move lateral. And when things try to move lateral, they can use different techniques to attack this type of infrastructure. So the way that you breach a company and get into the environment doesn't need to be the same attack that you then use within the company. And to be able to patch everything, you need to have some sort of vulnerability scans. So one of the most hard things when it comes to large organization is like, what stuff do I have? Yeah. So a CMDB. And do everyone update their CMDB? No. There are organizational changes, so things are changed within the organization. So there is no longer like a product owner for a specific box. No one is knowing about it. People start to think like, yeah, this doesn't exist anymore. So you need to have vulnerability scanners that scans your network to see what sort of products do I have on my network. Does this match the CMDB? More or less, you want to scan it to check for vulnerabilities and also find undocumented things within your network. So you just scan an IP prefix and see what is on this IP prefix. And then you can get some sort of prioritization list, meaning you can see like how does it go over time, which asset do I need to patch, which is most vulnerable. So a vulnerability scanner is a great way to get it more efficient. So, and when it comes to like log in on things, users use the same login on multiple places. It's very hard to limit it. There are ways, but just assume that people are using the same login on many places. So of course you should use some sort of MFA. Not all MFAs are the same. I have talked about this before. So if you, for example, have SMS as an MFAs, there are ways to spoof SMS and like intercept it. And it's also, okay, what happens if you have an MFA and each time you access something, there is a push notification to your cell phone. So if you have 1,000 users and you send 1,000 requests per hour, how long do you think it takes before someone within your organization just clicks accept to get away from this? So this is called MFA fatigue. So the best way to have is some sort of app within your phone, so you can use it in an easier way. And an even better way is to have physical hardware keys. So this is YubiKeys. I use it myself. So the difference between this physical hardware keys and, for example, a SITS card is that you can enter it in your device. And when you're supposed to use it, you need to click on it. So you need to physically touch on it. So it's very hard for an attacker to circumvene. I think it's called circumvene. To circumvene this type of MFA. And the higher privilege that you have, the higher security that you need to have. But it's still like the weakest point in the link is still the way to get in. So we need to start to build our networks in different ways. So when it comes to like my own personal recommendation is to have different type of network segments. So you have, in my case, you have trusted device. So this is a network where there is the corporate device with your corporate login. So you have a fully known, like, this is a device that I control, that I know about, fully disk encrypted. It has all the nice features. And then you have trusted user. It's when someone bring their own device, bring your own disaster. For example, if I bring my iPad to work, maybe I still want this iPad to be able to reach certain systems like, I don't know, payroll, I don't know. Payroll? Yeah, I think it's called payroll. Or like schedules, internet, or whatever. So I can get some information, but I shouldn't be able to reach like a super jump gate that can reach everything within the network. And then you have like a limited access where you put all your printers, your light bulbs, your alarms, video conference systems, things that needs to be on the corporate network that you don't have, let's say, full control over. And you can also limit the access that they should reach. Then you have some sort of interconnect, meaning some sort of transfer thing that you connect your data centers to, and also your like IoT or your public cloud. And you can have multiple different internet everywhere here. But the important thing is here that you segment the type of devices that you have in certain part of the network, and then you need to traverse multiple different inspection points that you can inspect the traffic, you can log the traffic, and you can take a decision on what is actually permitted. How you decide which asset should come in which part, you use 802.1x, 802.1x, yeah. So you more or less you have a certificate on your device that says like, if my device has this certificate, this is a corporate device that I have control over, put it in the trusted device. If it's like this type of MAC address, I know it's a video system, put it in the limited access. So this is a really efficient way to like put in devices in certain VRFs or certain part of the network, and then you route between the different VRF or the different segments through a firewall where you log the traffic and you can inspect the traffic and you can put on rules. And the most important when it comes to all of this still is that an attacker will always be able to get in with enough time and motivation. So, of course, I mean, this is a bit checkpoint channel, so to say. So my recommendation when it comes to this, and this is something that has been available for Checkpoint for many years. I have been running this myself for the last like 8 years, and it's identity-based access. So your access to systems should be who are you and what device are you using. So me, Magnus, with a corporate device should be able to reach a lot of things. Magnus on an iPad, not so much. So it depends on what sort of device are you using and who are you, and that should limit your access. So this is about limiting your exposure. So if we want to put this in a really like checkpoint picture, so we have our endpoint with Harmony endpoint. So we have like disk encryption, we have protection against ransomware. We also have like web filtering directly on the endpoint. So if we move the endpoint from our corporate offices, we still have some protection. And of course, we want to use physical hardware tokens to be able to use this laptop. We then use 802.1x to like access the network itself. And then the firewall for the office network has a lot of nice features, a lot of nice filters. So we can inspect the traffic and we can take some decisions on it. And this firewall should of course be identity based. So I really want to highlight, we have the device that we want to control, and then we have, together with identity based, this makes really efficient. Like, it's not zero trust, but it's damn close to zero trust. So the benefit of this is that, let's say this like dark firewall here, it's not the checkpoint firewall. So this firewall itself, it can host a few servers, and that firewall itself manage the traffic between the servers within that environment, but you limit the access to these servers in the OfficeNet firewall, where you have like this sort of device and this sort of user can access this resource. So you can move more intelligence to the Office network and have dumber firewalls in certain places and still have a really nice limiter of exposure. Of course, you want to run like CloudGuard everywhere and have a really nice features when it comes to building rules, not on IP addresses. Then we have on what sort of user to what sort of device based on tags, or resource based on tags. So then things can move around and you have a fully dynamic rule base. Because if you use CloudGuard and you have public clouds, you can tag certain assets with something, and this tag is following along the rule base and it's updated automatically. It's really cool. So we need to think about, like, users will always pick the easiest way. So when we're building this network, this security, we cannot say no to everything. We need to give options to users, and we need to give guidance on why do we do certain things. We need to educate our users. We need to give guidelines, and we need to make it as easy as possible for the users, and also empower them to make changes. So if you're using tags, if you're using identity-based things, the firewall doesn't need to know about specific IP addresses. You don't need to send in a ticket for everything. You have a guidance like, okay, if I want an internet access, okay, put this tag on this resource and it will get internet access by magic. And you will see your tickets is limiting, and you will see your users is starting to do the correct way, the way that you want it. So when it comes to like an attacker, and we talk about limiting exposures, the reason for it is that we have a lot of threat actors, and they have different motivation. And the easiest motivation is for real criminals that just want money. Then you can pay yourself out of the trouble. But what if it's an insider threat? Insider threat is like the most difficult to protect against, because then you have already granted access to someone for some reason, and they trying to destroy things. So this is why not all employees on all type of devices should have all type of access. So there is not a reason for HR to be able to reach, I don't know, GitLab with SSH. Why should HR reach the developer resource? But if you don't build your network based on identity-based policies, an HR employee will, per definition, reach GitHub because you have open, I don't know, SSH or HTTPS to these resources from the corporate network, and HR is on the corporate network. And this can be malicious by someone that is really trying to destroy something with insider threat. It can also be some sort of ransom or some sort of hacker that has taken over a specific device and then trying to move as lateral as possible. So if we limit the exposure and we limit the lateral movement by building identity-based rules, we're fixing a lot of this. So when it comes to like, okay, an attacker will get in, yes, because if you have enough time and resources, motivation, you will get in. Then we need to limit the damage, and the default response cannot be like, yeah, we have an insurance, we will pay ourselves out of this. Okay, good luck. It doesn't work anymore. Yes, it can work in some cases, but not in all. So I wanted to finish this with like, you need to do continuous improvement. So you need to do segmentation, you need to do patching, you need to have an inventory, so you need what type of assets you have. You need to train your users. And you definitely need prevent before detecting, because think about your own environment. Do you actually check your logs? Do you actually analyze everything? Or do you do more like, okay, prevent and forget? So I want to use a security vendor that focus more on prevention and build up the trust on the products. And I think Checkpoint is really good in preventing, instead of just saying like, oh, sorry, we have a breach. Here is some information about it. Try to fix it. So it's a lot easier to be preemptive and actually be proactive and prevent things instead of detecting and then fixing it. Fixing it's horrible. and limit the attack vector, meaning exposure and access. So exposure, I'm more or less meaning don't put everything on the internet. Don't put everything in a DMZ. Not everything needs to have internet access. And when it comes to access, I mean, not everyone should have access to everyone. It's not needed. And the most important thing of it all is to have a business continuity plan. So what do you do if something happens? Who do you call? Ghostbusters. No, but what if your entire network is encrypted? How do you contact your like suppliers, your vendors, your customers? What sort of information do you give publicly to on your website? How do you talk to the press? I mean, if something happens and it's a real attack and it's real targeted, it's not like you will be like offline for like 2 hours. We're talking about weeks. So you need to really have a plan on what to get up first, what type of communication do I have, what are my vendors, how do I contact them. So business continuity planning is more and more important, and you don't need to do everything at once. You need to do constantly improvements, and you need to go back and recheck when something happens. So I think it was quite similar to when I did have it in live in Vienna. I don't really have any notes, but I think that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.